Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jayne, and as a psychotherapist specializing in IBS, I help you take back control of your bowel using CBT and gut-directed hypnotherapy. So if this is something that you want to learn more about, then don't forget to subscribe so you get notified when new videos are released. Okay, back to your thoughts and IBS symptoms. Now, in an earlier video, which I'll link to just down below, I shared how and why your thoughts can directly trigger a flare-up of your IBS symptoms. And in this video, we're going to take this a step further, and we're going to look at 7 specific types of thinking which are likely making your IBS and your anxiety a lot worse. Now, the reason I want to share these with you is that when you can notice these types of thoughts and then replace believing them with something else, you can actively decrease your IBS symptoms. This is because how you think affects how you feel and can determine whether you switch on or off your body's stress response, which can either keep you stuck or set you free from the IBS stress symptom cycle. So let's explore these 7 different types of thinking, and then we'll talk about what to do about them. So the first one is should thinking. So this is where you try and motivate yourself with shoulds and shouldn'ts. So for example, I should be able to handle my symptoms better, or I should be able to eat this. Should thinking is unhelpful because it implies that there's a standard or a fixed rule that must be followed, and you end up putting all of this unreasonable pressure and demands on yourself. And then when you don't live up to that pressure and those demands, you feel guilty or you feel as though you failed. Thinking which involves I ought to or I must are also big offenders here. As I mentioned, when you direct these thoughts to yourself, the emotional consequences is guilt and a sense of failure. And then when we direct these out to other people, we can feel anger, frustration, and also resentment. Okay, number 2 is black and white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. So this is where you view things in absolute black and white terms. These thoughts often contain I can never or I always statement. As IBS can feel like an ongoing problem, it's not uncommon to think about it in terms of always having it or I'm never going to get better. Additionally, you may think everybody else has a huge meal and feels fine afterwards. I can never do that and I always have terrible symptoms. Now, this type of thinking can also impact other areas of your life and include I'm never on time or I always get things wrong. Unfortunately, all or nothing thinking can really undermine your sense of self-esteem and really fuel these feelings of insecurity. Okay, number 3 is catastrophizing. Now, this is a tendency to think the worst about things and interpret even small problems as major issues. With catastrophic thinking, you often imagine future scenarios that other people would consider unrealistic and irrational, but to you, they seem perfectly reasonable and likely to happen. Now, examples of catastrophic thinking when it comes to IBS are, I couldn't live with myself if I passed wind in public, or if I spent too long in the toilet, I'm going to lose my job, or no one will ever want to date me with IBS, I'm going to be single forever. Now, unfortunately, when you catastrophize, you tend to get things way out of proportion, which leads to unnecessary feelings of anxiety, panic, and also distress. Okay, so moving on to number 4, which is overgeneralizing the negative. So this is where you focus on the negative and come to conclusions based on one experience or aspect of a situation. You view a negative event as a never-ending pattern. So for example, you might think, I've tried changing my daily routine before, it didn't work then, why would it work now? Or I had to get up and leave the work meeting because of my symptoms. This is the 2nd time it's happened and I'll never be able to sit through a long meeting. Now, this type of thinking can also lead to a lot of despair, frustration, and anxiety. Okay, so next up is fortune telling. Now, this thinking pattern is really characterized by automatically assuming things will turn out badly, even though there is no real evidence to support this. You feel convinced that your prediction is an already established fact. So some examples of fortune-telling thinking are, I just know I'm going to be in severe pain all day if I go into work today. Or if I say yes to that lunch date, I know I'm going to have to cancel because of my IBS symptoms. Or even if I go to that new shopping centre, I know I'm just not going to be able to find the toilets if I need to go. Now, this thinking pattern also shows up when you use the words, what if? What if I can't find a toilet? What if I pass wind in public? What if I have stomach pain and I have to go home? Now, fortune-telling thoughts can unfortunately lead to huge amounts of anxiety And by making assumptions about the future, you actually start to behave accordingly, which then influences how things do turn out. Okay, thinking style number 6 is mind reading. So this is where you make assumptions about what other people are thinking about you. And often these assumptions are negative. So mind reading thoughts can look like this. People must think I'm really strange because I'm always running to the bathroom, or I'm sure that my doctor thinks I'm crazy and that my IBS symptoms are all in my head. Or even, I can't tell my best friend about my IBS because she's going to be disgusted. Once again, this type of thinking can really fire up your stress response. And you can spend a huge amount of time worrying and feeling anxious about what other people are thinking. Okay, so now our final thinking style is eliminating the positives. Now, this happens when you dwell on the negative aspects of a situation or experience and completely ignore or forget about the good parts. So, for example, you may receive some fantastic feedback about your work, but decide to focus on the one improvement that could be made and conclude in your mind that you're doing a terrible job. Similarly, you may go a number of days or weeks without any IBS symptoms, but choose to focus on the times when you did have a flare-up instead of recognizing how long you've been symptom-free for. Okay, so these are the 7 thinking patterns that can make your IBS and anxiety worse. But it's important to know that you can change how you think, or more specifically, you can change how you relate to your thoughts. You can change what you pay attention to. And the first step is to acknowledge what thinking patterns are coming up for you. So which ones did you recognize? Which ones are the most common in your thinking? And you can let me know just down below in the comments. You can also download a free worksheet that I have for you to start tracking your thoughts and identifying your current patterns of thinking around your IBS. And you can find the link to that worksheet just down below in the description. Because when you identify and name your thoughts, this helps you to see patterns in your own thinking. And this information allows you to change these often automatic thoughts a lot more easily, which in turn can help you break out of the IBS stress symptom cycle. So how do you change your thoughts? How can you loosen the grip that your current thinking has on you? Well, the good news is that there are a number of effective approaches for doing exactly this. And in this next video, I'm going to walk you through a process of identifying alternative thoughts. So make sure you check that out. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.